Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, it is Monday, and it is April 1st Monday, and so I want to spend some time talking about 5 reasons this joke culture needs to go. I don't participate in the April Fool's shenanigans, and frankly, I think that given the scope of our culture, the climate, and the internet, and all the different things, I'm just of the opinion that we just need to do away with this entire concept, this entire bit of nonsense, and just move beyond it all. Why do I say this? Well, I have identified the 5 reasons why. Let's just go ahead and dive on in. Number 1, not everybody wants to be involved. How do you parse out a person who really genuinely likes jokes and people who get caught up in the middle of your insanity? And for this, I'm really looking at, particularly you look at professional settings. Of course, I run Lineage on my phone, and there's a fun thing, those serious people out there, we don't update our phones at all between like January and May, lest we get some April Fool's joke downloaded on the phone. And I don't know if they're doing a joke today or not. I have no idea. But they've had anything from fairly harmless but, still inappropriate things to one of them was a very inappropriate and not necessarily harmless. Every setting on your phone would max out the volume of some goat, which seems funny until you realize that people bring these things into professional settings. People bring these things into classrooms. People bring these things places that the disruption is a very serious thing. And then, of course, the joke they did last year at Lineage was to put some pop-up that basically said, oh, we're going to, there's encryption malware on your device. These are not funny things. Of course, Google got involved in one a few years back where if you click the archive button and it really sent a picture of a minion back to whoever sent the email, and a lot of people use Gmail for professional things. And so when you get into these cases where people don't realize they're a joke or they're in a professional environment and you actually cause some damage because of that, well, what do? Oh, it's just some company. I had nothing to do with it, but still it impacts me. These companies need to absolutely stop. Everybody that's involved in any forward-facing joke, fire them. Just get rid of them. I actually like what Microsoft did this year, and they said there will be absolutely no customer-facing jokes. And frankly, I think they need to do away with the culture inside as well. So those are the first reason. Not everybody wants to be involved. And in this internet culture where everything is connected, everyone gets involved whether they want to be involved or not. It's a completely different situation if it's a one-on person that you know very well that's a single targeted. But in our current tech culture, that is not the situation we find ourselves in. Number 2, these jokes can persist later in years, particularly if we're talking about some internet-based thing, some spoof article, some spoof concept, some spoofed program, some spoofed something. We have to recognize the internet is written in ink. It does not go away. It does not go away. And when these jokes persist further into society and we don't recognize it's attached to April 1st, we don't necessarily recognize it's a joke, and now something that could have been benign or funny in a small subset becomes integrated into the knowledge of mainstream culture, which is actually amplified by the fact that a lot of sites now don't list published dates. If you're on a site every day, you recognize when it shows up. But if that site doesn't publish any dates, that can get lost into the archives of what is real. And that will bring us directly to our number 3 reason. Number 3, we are in this culture right now that's all fake news everywhere, fake news everywhere. I don't even like sites like The Onion or the Babylon Bee, which some people literally didn't recognize the source, didn't recognize what they are, quoted from them, and used them as a source in a legitimate document. Like, well, everybody who reads it would understand. No, that's the problem, is not everybody reads it. I have zero time for fake stuff that's legitimately, comically, satirically fake. I just don't have time for it. There's places and times that's okay. I don't want to call for the banning of those some things. You know, some of the articles that they've done have been comical over the years. On the Babylon Bee, where Russia has hacked the church potluck vote. You know, comical stuff. But at the same token, the reality is we are in this culture that's so concerned with fake news. The last thing we need to be doing is intentionally flooding the internet with fake stuff just because the calendar says April 1st. And these are those things that we need to keep in mind, keep in perspective, just to make sure that things don't get worse, that things don't get bad. These are those factors that we need to keep in mind. We are in this divisive, false, fake news push. We don't need intentionally fake stuff on the internet for comedy or for otherwise. Number 4, the envelope just keeps getting pushed. How do you top last year's joke? You top last year's joke by continuing to push it further and further and further and further. And at some point in time, especially in this high connected internet age culture, at some point in time, you have gone way too far. That's what I think Lineage did last year. Spoofing crypto malware on your device that you use with all your things, that so crosses the line of appropriateness that, frankly, I took the operating system off the device for a while, and the only reason I'm still running it is it's the only other one that I found to be solidly viable for pure production. And I just had to recognize the limitations and the issues surrounding those updates. And so I just don't update the thing frequently because I don't want them to do comical crap, what they think is not comical crap, because they keep on pushing the envelope. You got to one up your joke from last year. You got to prevent it from going stale. You got to just keep going and keep going. And then we get the previous points we talked about. We're wrapping all these people who don't want to be involved, who are trying to stay professional, who are trying to do professional things. Some of these people might be on the edge of their jobs, and your April Fool's joke could cost them the loss of their job. That is not appropriate stuff. We need to recognize this and say, we need to stop and do away with this April Fool's joke culture, ha ha ha, just a prank. Because you push the envelope and eventually you knock that thing off the table. And what do you do at that point in time? And our number 5 point, the core reason here that this needs to stop is simply that little fairy tale story, The Boy Who Cried Wolf. What is up with The Boy Who Cried Wolf? Well, The Boy Who Cried Wolf plays a prank, and everyone rushes and responds seriously. And then they recognize it's a prank, they go away, he calls it again, they come and rush because it's a serious matter, they investigate, and there's nothing there. And then the third time he goes and calls it, and no one believes him, and it's a real serious emergency. The Boy Who Cried Wolf is our sheer reason why we should stop doing these pranks in this current internet world. We don't need people to think a prank is going on when in reality something serious is going on. The example I'm thinking of is if you see the movie Scream Part 2, where they open up with the movie and the woman is actually legitimately stabbed and everybody thinks it's a publicity stunt, and here is a woman in the room full of people who could help, and nobody helps because everyone thinks it's just a publicity stunt in the midst of all of it. We are in a world that does encounter tragedies and travesties and all sorts of other issues, and the last thing we need is for nobody to pay attention because they think it's just yet another April Fool's joke, and nobody expects anything real to go on April 1st anyway. But the reality is it's a day like any other day. We need to stop. We need to be sober-minded. We need to be professional. professional and we need to go about our life so that we don't get all caught up in the midst of all this stuff. Those are my reasons why I think that we need to stop this whole nonsense. You may agree, you may disagree. Let me know in the comments down below. Are any of these points good? Are some of these points a little overblown? Let me know what you think. You can have a look at the links in the description down below or right up above me, and follow along on any of the social media accounts if you are interested in following the channel's progress and whatever else we have going on. So thanks for coming along, and hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.